focus on the mesencephalon, depending on the quality of your specimen, depending on the height of the cut. You will have a medial mesencephalic sulcus, delimiting the posterior perforating substance from the laterally located cross-fornixes, right? Posteriorly, we will study in detail, we will do under the microscope, lamina quadrigemina, sulcus cruciformis, divided the four colliculi. Of course, you will have only two colliculi per each side, so you will have just one side, one arm of it. And lateral mesencephalic sulcus, very important sulcus. This is it was to observe because on one end is the posterior limit of the crus cerebri or cerebral peduncle. On the other hand, surgical speaking, also very interesting because there it's a place that you can recognize during surgery. There runs the lateral mesencephalic vein. It's a very good landmark for orientating your surgery. Depending then also on the tumor location, it's also a good place to attack lesion in the tegmentum of the mesencephalon. We will then study in detail the bulbar anatomy, identify, of course, the median sulcus. Laterally to the medial sulcus, we will find the pre-olivary sulcus, the limiting, together with the post-olivary sulcus, the inferior olivary nucleus. Why is this two nuclei important? Because pre-olivary sulcus, which would be the one anterior, is the exit point of the hypoglossal nerve. Retro-olivary sulcus is the exit point of the caudal mixed nerve, so vagus mostly, but you will have the roots of the accessorials coming upwards and those of the glossopharyngeals. Cranially to the olive, you have the supraolivary fossa. Supraolivary fossa, important landmark for the abducens is more medially located. Abducens exits from a bulbopontine sulcus, rather paramedial. Supraolivary fossa is important for the eighth nerve, and just posterior to it, you have the lateral medullary fossa, and there you have the seventh, which is covered by the flocculus, like that. So good landmark to know when you're doing retrosigmoidal surgery. These landmarks are landmarks that you might, depend if you have a huge schwannoma, it's difficult for you to recognize, of course, the single fossa. In cases where you're doing hearing preserving surgery for vestibular schwannoma, you have to place an electrode in the cochlear area, then you have to identify these landmarks, or you might see them to place the electrode, for example. After that, here we see, we will focus our concentration to the cerebellar anatomy. Now, we've seen horizontal tissue, primary horizontal tissue, Professor Putti described this. Concerning cerebellar anatomy, there is a lot of available nomenclature in literature, like it is the case for many, many issues. This concerns the nomenclature of the hemisphere, of the lobules, and the nomenclature of the parts of the vermis. Now, if you look from the medial side, you will see the vermis. The vermis has 9 lobules, which are lingula, central, culmen, declive, folium, tubra, I have a song in my copy, pyramid, uvula, and the last one is the nodule. So there are 9 of them that you can recognize in the arching around of the vermian anatomy. Are they relevant? In my opinion, anatomy is always relevant, but if we want to put it more pragmatical, we have to recognize the pyramid, at least as Professor Putti said. Culmen is very important because, as the name says, it's the most apical of the portion of the cerebellar hemisphere. And of course, the uvula, because it's about to give on one hand medial attachment to the teliochoroidea, on the other hand, is where you will attack to make the interuvulo-tonsillar fissure approach to a foreventricle. This is the definition that Professor Jajovi gives to the approach that he discovered and that was later named the yellow-velar approach. It's a very interesting story, but I will tell you another time without Zoom, otherwise we get involved. Now, after we have this, we will then, and now we go more practical to the dissection, we will focus on the superior surface of the cerebellum. We can call it also tentorial surface if you like. We need to identify great horizontal fissure, then primary, secondary fissure, Also, there are several names, post-clival, the primary fissure, another name, I forget, but anyway, primary, secondary fissure, that identify the quadrangular lobule, anterior, posterior. And then a semilunar lobule going to the great horizontal fissure, symphysis superior, and, sorry, a semilunar superior and inferior around the great horizontal fissure. Once we appreciate the anatomy, we will start to remove the single folia of the cerebellar surface. By removing the folia, we start from a lateral to medial direction, pretty much like how we did for the cortex on the lateral side. Suction is also an option, or with the forceps. And we pull the dissection just, I would say, half centimeter medial lateral, sorry, to the vermis. So we keep the vermis so that we have an anatomical landmark. And we remove layer by layer the single folia of the anterior, posterior quadrangular lobule and of the superior semilunar lobule. So that we have, as you can see here, that we open the great horizontal fissure. What we will see appearing on one end, we will be able to appreciate more in detail the anatomy of the dorsal aspect of mesencephalon and pons, which usually is buried in the cerebellum mesencephalic tissue. In particular, appreciate the parabrachial recess and see the whole extension of the lateral mesencephalic sulcus. Here you see starting appearing this very gentle fiber vermis, which Simone will tell us pertain to. Exactly. So the first very superficial covering of the dentate nucleus. After removing of the fleece of stealing, you will see a removal also of the pia of the lateral surface of the medial cerebellar peduncle. What we will see? We will see the fiber of the middle cerebellar peduncle. And as we know, the fibers of both middle cerebellar peduncle merges, if you want, or are just continuous. They are like a bell arching around the tegmentum of the pons. The tegmentum of the pons, most of nuclei are there, and they are covered like a bell of a middle cerebellar peduncle, which has two layers. We will see during this section and also later. There's a superficial layer and the deep layer. Between the two layers, you have the pyramidal trunk crossing. We will see now. After this, we will see the fibers of the inferior cerebellar peduncle, which go medial to the middle cerebellar peduncle, medial, and then inferior to go to the lateral fasciculus that we will see later on the dorsal surface of the medulla oblongata. Here, next step, removal of the superficial portion of the middle cerebellar peduncle. This uncovers what I was telling you before. These are the fibers coming from the cerebral peduncle. So the fiber of the cerebral peduncle, the most important of them are the corticospinal tract, and this characteristic root. So they run divaricated, interspersed between the deep layer and the superficial layer of the middle cerebellar peduncle. So this is an important anatomical relationship to understand. On the back, we will see appearing, after we remove the fleece of stealing, we will see appearing the dentate nucleus. Anterior to the dentate nucleus, again, inferior cerebellar peduncle, lateral to it, middle cerebellar peduncle. One step more here. Here you see further removal of pons fiber allows a better representation of the pyramidal tract. But most importantly, the removal of the middle cerebellar peduncle exposes completely the inferior cerebellar peduncle. which goes lateral, so it started from the ilus, let's say, of the dentate, from medial, from the vermis, arches at the anterior border of the dentate nucleus, runs laterally and inferiorly, making this curve, to end then in the medulla oblongata, dorsal surface just lateral to the tubercle gracilis and cuneatum, the so-called lateral medullary fascicle. This is a bit rather difficult step of dissection. Let's see what we can get. Last step, removal of the inferior cerebellar peduncle, will allow us to represent the whole of the superior cerebellar peduncle. And you will see how this is the main efference, the chairman, as Dr. Serra was saying, the main efference of the dentist. Okay. As usual in this day, you see, we now will go to the dissection room. We will repeat everything again and again and again and again. We go very slow because it's very small, the specimen, very fragile. So really, no hurry at all. We have 3 hour time to do it. It's enough. Just use this time very gently.